What's up YouTube, it's Mr. Stevie J893 and I'm back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be doing my first tablet comparison between the iPad 4 and the Acer Iconia Tab A500. Let's get started. So in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about when they were released, their weight, the cameras on each, the speakers, storage, apps, battery life, ports, and then lastly wrap it up with screens. Alright, so we already know that first of all the iPad 4 was released in November of 2012, so it's only about 3 months old. And like I said, I was really curious about it, so I decided to go ahead and pick one up. I've already had the Acer Iconia Tab. It came out in April of 2011. I picked it up in December of 2011. And it's really a good tablet. And even though you can see the screen flickering, you can see the difference between the screen and the two. However, that flickering is really coming out good on this camera. If you're looking at the tablet straight on, you wouldn't even be able to see it. But that just shows you the difference between the two screens. And I'm going to get to that later. But like I said, so going with the iPad, you know, everybody already knows how light it is. It weighs in at 1.44 pounds. It's not heavy at all. I can't really recall having any arm strain or anything with it. But then again, the flip side of that, it seems I'm really nervous about dropping this thing. So I've got a couple different cases, one of which is sitting in now. So I keep it in a case, you know, just to protect it. You already know how much an iPad costs, so don't want to have to worry about trying to replace it. The Acer, on the other hand, weighs in at 1.69 pounds, so it's only about a quarter of a pound difference between the two. And while on paper that doesn't seem like much, in the hand it's a huge difference. It's the weight, the difference in weight. You can feel it, and you can actually look at them side by side. You hold them up here so you can see the difference in thickness, and part of that is with that port. Also, the Acer has USB host features. It's got a full-size USB port, so that's going to add a little bit of weight and heft to it. So that's part of the weight difference between the two. So as far as size, the iPad measures in at 9.7 inches diagonally, and the Acer measures in at 10.1. And if you hold them side by side, the Acer may be a little bit longer, and the iPad happens to stand a little taller. Okay, this next area that I want to talk about is the camera. Now you can see right now I'm looking through the iPad's camera. It's a 5 megapixel rear camera, and I'm looking at a Pepsi can here, and that thing you almost can't tell that I'm looking through an iPad. If you didn't see the bezel and the actual camera through the glare, you wouldn't know that I was looking through, you know, a camera through an iPad camera. So that thing is crystal clear. And this camera records up to 1080p, so it's really, really good. I mean, you can see that right here. Now, by contrast, this is the Acer's camera, and you can still see the flickering on the screen. You can see the glare much greater. You can see me looking in the camera. So there's a huge difference, and that comes out in pictures. I mean, the pictures on the iPad's camera are crystal clear, and you can see this one here. Not only the glare, but you can see the flicker. So obviously, looking at them, the iPad's camera is much, much better. Even though they're both 5 megapixels. You can turn things around, and you can see the difference again between the two. This one over here, if you were to see this in real life, the Acer's camera, it almost looks like it's black and white. And you can see the iPad's camera. See, it's doing face detection. You can see I'm recording on my phone. This thing is crystal clear. Yeah, this front-facing camera on the iPad is an upgrade over what they had before. This is a 1.3 megapixel camera, and like I said, it's crystal clear. Now, the one over here on the Acer, this is a 2 megapixel front-facing camera, and you can see there's no comparison between these two cameras. I mean, the Acer is, you know, still flickering, but even then, even without that, the picture quality is it's terrible. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is. It's terrible. All right, this next area that I want to talk about is the music, or the speakers rather. The iPad has this one single bottom firing speaker, and the Acer has two speaker grills on the back. Now, you would think with two speakers, this Acer would actually put out some sound, but you'd actually be surprised between the quality of the two. Again, it's really not much of a comparison, so let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, this is the iPad speaker, and right now it's pretty maxed out.
So you enter into this building. You brought your burdens.
So that was pretty clear. Now let's check out the Acer speakers. And before we do that, I want to go ahead and make sure the volume's maxed on it. Alright. That's the Acer's both speakers. Sound is kind of tinny. You know, it's not really powerful at all, even though there is a sound equalizer on both of these tablets, and you can set them to whatever way you want to. It just seems that the iPads so far is just blowing everything out of the water on this Acer. And let's go to an area that some folks sort of a debate, and that is the storage. Now this is the Wi-Fi 16 gig version of the iPad, and as everybody knows, there is no additional storage options. There is no SD card slots. What you get is what you get. So you need to make sure that when you buy this, whatever size that you get is going to be appropriate for your needs. And like I say, I just got the 16 gig version. I don't anticipate filling this up. So it suits my needs just fine. It also has an A6X processor, and it comes in also 16, 32, and 64 gig version models. You can also get this, like I said, this is a Wi-Fi only version. You can also get it with the cellular data plan, but that's going to cost you a little bit more. And it also comes with a gig of RAM. So it, as is, this 16 gig Wi-Fi version with the A6X processor and a gig of RAM, this thing is smoking fast. It's very fast. But again, storage, you get what you pay for. Now over here with the Acer, this is running a Tegra 2 processor. I know that's behind the power curve right now, you know, with Tegra 3 out, but it is what it is. It also has a gig of RAM, and this again is the 16 gig model. This is Wi-Fi only. The A500 is the Wi-Fi version. The A501 is the cellular model. And you can get, the good thing about this is you can get SD cards to put in here. Like I said, this is the 16 gig model, and you can get up to a 64 gig card to put in here for storage. So as far as storage options, as far as having your physical media here, you can store it on here and the Acer wins out. But with the iPad, you can also store stuff in the cloud, Dropbox, iCloud. And the next thing I want to talk about is the apps, or the app selection. With the Acer, there are, you know, Google has more than 700,000 apps. And while that's great and all of Google's apps are not optimized for tablets. So, and what I mean by that is you might get a game, something like, if anybody's familiar with the game Medieval Castle Defense, that's a game that's optimized for Android phones. So on a smartphone, the image is going to be pretty big, and you'll have good gameplay. But playing it on a 10-inch tablet that's not optimized for tablet use, you'll have a lot of black borders around the screen because it's not really optimized for it. With the iPad, Apple has more, right now, there's more than 250,000 apps specifically designed for iPad use. And I've even gotten a few that are optimized just for the iPhone, and they still look pretty good on here. There, you do have the black borders around it, but it's not as big and it's not as noticeable as it is on the Acer. So, I mean, as far as apps, as far as sheer quantity, yeah, Google has a, I'm going to give that to Google, but as far as quality, as far as apps being totally optimized for a particular tablet, that's got to go to Apple. I mean, as far as the fluidity of their apps as well, productivity, things like Keynote and Pages and syncing, things back and forth between your tablet and your Apple computer or whatever computer you have. That's just seamless to me. Another thing I mentioned about fluidity of apps. Now, on both of these tablets, one of my favorite games is Temple Run 2. And for some reason, I have that game on my Acer. I also have it on my Galaxy S3 smartphone. And on both of those, the game is really choppy. I mean, nothing is worse than having to make a jump. And just as you're getting ready to jump, the screen freezes and you swipe, but the screen doesn't, catch it. And so when it unfreezes, a half a second later, your character goes sliding off a cliff. That is just maddening. But with the iPad, I mean, like I said, I've had this tablet now for almost 2 weeks, and I've played Temple Run, Temple Run 2, just about every single day on it, and I've never had a problem with that or any other app freezing up in the middle of using it, anything like that. It's just smooth. But I have to go back to some other apps. There's some great productivity apps that are also on the Acer, in the Google Play Store. One of my favorite is Kingsoft Office. Now, if you don't know about that, that is a free, powerful, sort of like Microsoft Office suite. It has the full functionality of Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And you can even read Word, PowerPoint, and Excel documents on here. With this, one of the problems that I had on my MacBook Pro, I've got Pages and I've got Keynote. And one of the problems that I ran into is that I was not able to sync it on my iPad. And that was one of the things that I was looking forward to. Apple likes to toot the fact that syncing apps is flawless. But one of the issues that I ran into is because the version of Pages and Keynote that's on my MacBook Pro, they're not optimized for this tablet. So in order for me to use them on this tablet, I'd have to repurchase them. That's something that I found out when I called in to the Apple Store to find out, why my apps weren't showing up. So, I mean, with that, rather than have to pay that all over again, Kingsoft Office is a great alternative. All right, the next area is the battery life. Both of these have great batteries, and it's really, again, it's going to be dependent upon your use and what programs you have running in the background. This iPad 4, the battery is off the charts. I mean, I can charge it up completely tonight, and I'll easily make it through all day tomorrow. And probably, 24 hours from now, I'll still have, if it was at 100% right now, and I used it, probably about this time tomorrow, I'd have about that much battery left. I mean, this thing is awesome on battery. And I'm not what you would consider a heavy battery user or heavy app user or whatever you want to call it. I'm not a heavy user. I mean, I use it, surf the web, play games, check my email. I use that for both tablets, but the battery on this thing is great. Now, by the same token, the battery in this Acer tablet is great as well. I mean, I just plugged this thing up and charged it today, and before that, it's been in standby for over a week, and I haven't been using it. And today, when I plugged it up, it was at 3%. So, I mean, that's pretty long battery life. Now, if I was using it straight through, I think Acer says that you might be able to get about 6.5 hours out of it. So it's pretty decent. But with this iPad, I'm just floored with the battery life. I mean, I carry my charging cord with me everywhere I go, but I'm finding I really don't need it. You know, it's great to have, but I'm really not needing it. So again, that's an area that's going to go to the iPad. Now next is ports, and this is where the Acer really shines, because for the iPad, there's really almost no such thing as a port. Let me put this in standby for just a second. The only port that you really have on here is your Lightning port, and that's where your connector goes to plug it up. You know, on the front you've got the One Home button. Up top you've got the 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera, and if you look close enough you'll see the ambient light sensor. On the right-hand side of it, you've got your screen lock switch, your rotation lock switch, or silent switch, depending on how you have it set up, along with your volume rocker. On the top of it, you've got your power sleep wake button. And that's one of the other things that I like about iPads. You know, a lot of their buttons have multiple features or functions. On the left side, there is nothing. On the back, again, you've got that one speaker at the bottom. And up at the top, you've got that 5 megapixel rear-facing camera. And then on the top, you've got a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. You've got a microphone. And we're back over here with the power button. And that's it for the iPad. Now with the Acer, where I was saying that it might shine a little bit, well, not might, I think it does shine, is in the sheer number of ports. So I mean, if you look at the bottom, you've got a dock connector for some accessories that Acer's made for it, and that's it on the bottom. On the left hand side, you've got a mini HDMI port, and then up here you've got your headphone jack and your power button, power sleep wake button. Across the top you've got your volume rocker, your rotation lock button. You've got the compartment for your SD card right there at the top, and that's it across the top. On the right hand side you've got a full USB port, and that does have USB host, so you can hook up USB mouse, keyboard, or what have you. You've also got next to it a micro USB port, which is great. You can plug up things to that. Up at the top, right here, you've got your charging port. That's where your charging plug goes in. And I mean, it's a sheer number of ports. The Acer to me wins it. I mean, you can hook so much up to it. I've hooked up external hard drive. I've hooked up external mouse and used it. I mean, it's awesome. And so as far as ports, I'm going to have to give that one to the Acer. Now the last area that I want to talk about is the screen, and I've kind of hit on that a little bit throughout this entire video. I mean, looking at it, which one would you rather look at? I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? It's crystal clear. The iPad 4, this is the Retina display model. This is running a 2048 by 1536 display. Over here, you've got 1280 by 800 LCD display. I mean, it's IPS versus LCD. You can see the difference. There's just really no comparison. The screens between the two, I mean, the iPad blows it out of the water. And last but not least, I want to talk briefly about the operating system. Again, this is where, you know, a lot of folks may say, why would you compare one that's running a pretty up-to-date software operating system versus one that's pretty old? And again, it's just something that I chose to do because, you know, I was really interested and I like both tablets. The iPad is running out of the box iOS 6.0, but right after I opened it up, I got the update to 6.1, which added LTE support. So, I mean, and I'm finding that even though there are some areas in iOS that are kind of lacking, you know, would have to be lack of widget support. And, you know, I understand when a lot of people say that, you know, they're kind of frustrated with iOS not having widget support. But to me, the only area where I see that that's really any concern would be using something like the calendar. I mean, it would be nice to have a widget where you could just go in and open your calendar up. But it's not something that's, again, a deal breaker. I mean, you can just go right in. Now, it would be a little easier to get to your music files instead of having to open music. Now, you can always do it that way and open your music that way. But over here, I mean, you've got folders, you've got widgets, and it's so easy. You know, if I want to look at my calendar here, I can just open it up because I've got a widget on one of my home screens. You've got widgets. I mean, just, you know, Android's got widgets galore, and that's awesome. Another thing that I like is with this, even though it ships with Honeycomb, but it's upgraded right now to Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich. This is not rooted. The iPad is not jailbroken. They're both running, you know, the latest versions of the software that's available to them. What I like about it is I added Go Launcher to this, and it had a feature where you can add more home screens. I think I ended up putting something like 7 or 8 on here. Not that I use all of them, but it's just a nice feature to have. Plus, with Go Launcher, they also added the functionality of your home screens don't end. You know how on some of the older phones, like the HTC phones, they'd have 5 screens and you'd swipe all the way this way, and then you'd have to swipe all the way back. Well, Go Launcher has functionality to where I could just swipe all the way through. I could keep swiping around. With iOS, not so much. You can have up to 11 home screens. However, you have to fill up each home screen first before you can add another app. Now, sometimes when you download apps, they'll appear on a brand new page. I've had that happen quite a few times, but I'm sort of a neat freak as far as the desktop. I like to keep like apps together. So that's the great thing. Both of these, you know, the systems allow you to create folders so you can store stuff in it, you know, like stuff, so you can easily get to it. There's a folder that I have there. Here's another folder that I have on the iPad. So, you know, both of them have their pluses and their minuses. Overall, I think both of them are great tablets. They'd be a great addition to anything that you have. And actually, the reason why I stuck with the Acer A500 is because, to me, out of all of their Iconia tabs, this was the best one. The model that came out after the A500 and the A501 took away one of the cameras. I believe it took away the front-facing camera. Now, not that anybody's going to be using a tablet as their primary camera, but the simple fact is, you buy a tablet, it'd be nice to have a rear-facing camera or a front-facing camera so you can video chat if you so desire. And they chose to take that away, but they upgraded the operating system so that they could keep the price low. With the iPad, I've never heard anything about them taking, you know, any of the cameras away, and they all work great. So let me know what you guys think. This video's already been pretty long. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Give me a thumbs up and a like, and I'll catch you later. Peace.